So once again, welcome all of you to the episode 105 on authenticity or genuinity. And we call it Pramanikta in Hindi. So I'll stop sharing the screen now so that all of us can see each other for a while before the talk starts. And thank you so much, Brother Mike, for being with us and being our savior to help us in this value. So I think all of us know him very well. He's been with us many times, but we always have new participants. So I'll just give a little bit introduction, a very brief one about him. He basically is a celebrated author. He's an author of 16 books, and all these books are on the development of self-awareness, the cultivation of spiritual intelligence, and providing freedom from emotional suffering. And to name a few of his books, it's Being Yourself, Don't Get Mad, Get Wise, The 7 Myths About Love, so on and so forth. He also is a management tutor and a spiritual coach. And I think with his great insight and wonderful humor which he has, he brings together the 3 key strands of the 21st century. That's what he likes to say. And these 3 key strands are self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and continuous unlearning. And since the past 35 years since he's began his spiritual journey with the Brahma Kumaris, he's been guiding and facilitating the personal development of leaders in various companies and communities in over 30 countries. So all of you would be wondering, this value, authenticity, genuinity, is it really worth speaking about? Yes, Brother Mike has a lot to share about that. And before we pass it on to him and also go over to the formal welcoming with flowers by Sister Taran, as always, a small poem on the value and him as well. So in today's world, which is otherwise full of complexity, where it's hard to find genuineness and simplicity, Brother Mike comes to show us the light towards authenticity, so that we feel at ease and get rid of any perplexity. Where people live with lots of false publicity and wars are waged in the name of ethnicity, the Supreme comes to help us get rid of this duplicity, liberating us from the pain of immoral chronicity, so that we become abundant without any paucity, and leading the life of a true hermit or a villager, despite being in the big city where all of us live. So with this, I just would request Sister Taran, who's joining us from Canada, Vancouver, to please welcome Brother Mike. Over to you. Thank you.
Shanti, thank you, Brother Manoj, and welcome, Brother Mike. We met you years ago here in Vancouver, and that time I had a fortune to meet you and get your books autographed by yourself. On behalf of Sister Claudia and the whole team here and all the participants, I'd like to welcome you. And with the beautiful Christmas poinsettias, they brighten the cold days here, and being the shortest day today, they're also brightening everyone's life, as you will with this value to everyone. So welcome, and please receive these beautiful poinsettias.
It's definitely accepted, and it's very appropriate. Of course, the time of year is the Christmas time. In fact, there's a Christmas party going on right now downstairs in the GRC, and there's plenty of those plants around. So every time I look at one, it will be reminded of your presentation today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And before we go on, I just forgot. Thanks for reminding me, Sister Taran, that this is the 21st December. It's the winter solstice, as we know, the shortest day and the longest night. And it's the first time that in 2024, the United Nations has declared this as the World Meditation Day. So we sort of dedicate this episode of authenticity and genuinity to that purpose. So now so as always, a few housekeeping instructions. His brother's talk would be, say, for around 35 to 40 minutes. And he'll be taking only Q&A for around 15 minutes. So if you have any questions, please start pouring them out to me in the chat box, and I'll be asking them. And I'm sharing the screen for him. So Brother Mike, over to you now. And I'll just give you the remote control as well again. Yeah, so now you're having the control of that as well. All is good?
All is good. Thank you very much indeed. And thank you for your flexibility to begin with. And a very warm welcome to everybody. Thank you for zooming in or tuning in, as they say. And as you know, our particular discussion today is about these two ideas of authenticity and is it genuinity? I can never quite get the pronunciation of that correct. But I think they're more or less the same, you know, it's just the same word with a similar kind of meaning. So we'll probably simplify it. And then if you've got any questions at the end on the one that I don't talk about so much, I'm going to talk mostly about authenticity. And if you've got questions on genuinity, then you can give me those questions at the end. I'm happy to take them. So in a sense, they come together, they come as one, but really the aim of the presentation is to explore them, to establish exactly what they are, what they mean, and can they be created or do they exist already, just like your original qualities, the original qualities of the soul, love, peace, and happiness, we know, are really vibrations, which we've decided to name separately, but they really come together as a vibration of consciousness. And so authenticity and genuinity is, do we create them or do they just exist naturally? That's one of the aims of the presentation. In the UK, we have something on television called, it's quite famous really, it's called the Antiques Roadshow. And it's a time when people bring what they found in their attic, which is very old, a picture or a dress or an item, some kind of item, and they bring their item to a meeting, which is filmed for television locally. And so it's a question of bringing your antiques to be valued. And they have a specialist look at whatever the item is, and it gives them, they give you a value for the item as it would be if it was to be put up for auction. And sometimes they are at the end sold at auction. And it's very interesting because some items you think, well, that's not worth much, but it's worth a fortune basically, because you will right there and then you will be told and you will see how much it's worth. And so a big surprise arrives on some people's faces as they're told how much their item is worth, as you can imagine. And what they do, the experts who evaluate and examine the item very closely, what they do is they look for, oh, so can we come back one? Can we just come back one? Eek. Oh, maybe if I go down here. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. No, come back one. Oh, no. There we go. There we are. I'll get used to it. Yep, that's fine. And so what they look for when they're examining the item is the mark of authenticity or genuity. And this ensures the antique that has been brought for their examination is authentic, is real, basically. And if there is that mark is found, if the mark of authenticity is there, then that item, as you know, will have a greater value. And that's when someone is usually surprised to hear the value of their item because they didn't see that it was authentic, it was the real thing, it was the original, from the original maker, whether it was a manufacturer or an individual maker. It turns out that mark makes it authentic. Otherwise, if that mark is absent, then the authenticity is in doubt, and therefore the value is lesser. So The same happens when you see someone else. Yeah, you're just watching their actions, they're watching their behavior, and they automatically earn a greater mark of value in your consciousness. And if they do, then they will be a more valuable, more authentic person. So you're looking for that, sometimes not looking consciously, but subconsciously. And that's when you feel you're in the presence of someone with authenticity in their behavior, in their gestures, etc. And so it's the same, but different, in as much that you don't see a mark, but you feel the person, their value, according to their authenticity in the moment. And of course, if they have a reputation of being of great value, then it's automatically in our consciousness as we watch them behaving. But if you see them inauthentic, a little false, not quite as genuine as they could be, you start to mark their value down, basically. If you don't feel they're being authentic. And it's a feeling that we have when we watch someone else behaving. And it's a feeling that arises from within, and we project it onto them if we are judging them to be inauthentic. But what we don't realize is that we have the habit of lowering our consciousness, lowering our own sense of self-value. And when we lower our own sense of self-value, we tend to see the other person of a lower value. In other words, we project onto them. And that's because it's how we see ourselves is how we see the world. We tend to see other people as we see ourselves. There's an old saying, I do not perceive the world the way it really is. I perceive the world as I am. And so it's the perception of another person's behavior according to our perception of ourself. So if we see ourself as a lower value, less authentic, we have a tendency to drag them downwards to meet that self-perception. And so that's sometimes known as what you spot is what you've got. Basically, you see them as similar to the way you see yourself. And we have the habit of doing that. Unless we're really conscious and really aware, that habit will kick in and we'll pull a person down in our vision, in our judgment of them, basically. And so we lose their authenticity because we're not being as authentic ourselves. So what is exactly authenticity? There are a number of definitions, and I'll just run through them with you because they all have different aspects of authenticity which are relevant to our discussion. It's the quality of being true to your own personality, your own beliefs, and your own values, if you like. The quality of being true to your personality, beliefs, and values. But what we don't realize is that our personality is like it's a moving show. So one minute we feel okay, and next minute we feel not so okay, especially if we've had some emotional eruption take over. And so our personality becomes quite depressed. And so our personalities change all the time, depending on what's going on around us, outside of ourselves, depending what other people are doing. We tend to adjust our personality to what's going on. There's no consistency. And so there's no real continuity to our authenticness, if indeed there was a moment of authenticness. So our beliefs, the second aspect that the quality of being true to our beliefs are largely subconscious, which means we don't know what they are until we notice them in our self-reflection. If you do take time to self-reflect, then you'll look back on encounters and you'll look back on discussions, on arguments with people, and you'll say, did I really say that? Do I really believe that? You might say that, because our beliefs, our belief system, tend to be subconscious, outside of our moment by moment awareness. So it's not a brilliant definition. And then our values, they don't really exist on their own. We talk about our values, but we really talk about one-word labels, basically. And so they don't arrive or appear like that in our behavior. You know, if you're peaceful one minute, you're not just peaceful. There might be a little bit of love in the value. It's love and peace together, or the little bit of contentment. So it's contentment, the value of contentment, and a little bit of peace, and a lot of love. And so it's a little bit false to name them, to put a label on our values, because they never really show up as one singular idea or concept in our behavior. They tend to move around depending, and again, on our moods, etc., or our personality at that time. And so it's not a brilliant definition. It's not really pinning it down. The second definition, which it's got aspects of it, it's being genuine, expressing our thoughts and emotions without trying to conform to external expectations. And so it's being genuine and expressing our thoughts and emotions without trying to conform to what others' expectations are, or what society's expectations are. And so, yeah, there's an aspect of it, but we've got to be careful, because the expression of our emotions, they can have a detrimental cost on the other person. You know, if we become emotional in the presence of the other person and we're not in control of our emotions, they become a projection upon that person, and that person is detrimentally affected by our emotional state, or can be, unless, of course, they're strong enough not to be affected. And all emotion, in a sense, is violent by nature, because emotions are not feelings. And to sort of feel our true nature is quite different from being emotional about an issue or a situation or a person. Yeah, to have a feeling about that is genuine, is bordering on purity. There's a pure feeling that you have towards situations, whereas any emotion that arises towards a situation or a person or an event will not be pure. It'll be uncontrollable in our own context, and therefore a little bit violent, and sometimes a lot violent. But hey, that's another seminar in a sense, the difference between feelings and emotions, and they are quite different. And then, of course, other people, other situations, there are expectations that come into the picture. And those expectations, they're generally imagined by us, that what they might be that they have, that we can never know what another's expectations really are, because we can never know what's happening in their consciousness. And so it's our imagination of their expectations that we sometimes express our thoughts and emotions towards. Yeah, and that then is not accurate, it's not true. It can't be authentic. It is just according to what our imagination is, which is not a good idea, really. And that's how a lot of relationships don't work. There isn't a real connection between people, because there's an imagination of what the other expectations are, and they're imagining what your expectations are. And of course, the imagination is never accurate, never right on. The third definition is being self-aware and embracing and expressing your own unique attributes without fearing judgment or rejection. Let's do it again. It is being self-aware, yeah, and embracing and expressing your own unique attributes without fearing judgment or rejection from the other. And that's not easy, because we spend a lot of time fearing the judgment or fearing being rejected by another. And that's basically because we're not really that self-aware. We don't realize that another person's judgment or indeed their rejection, it's possible for it to have no effect on us whatsoever to get to that stage. Once again, you can never know what it is exactly. And so we know that we're not taught to be self-aware, and if you're meditating in any way whatsoever, then you've realized that it's essential to become more aware, not so much of the self, but what you're doing within yourself, what you're creating within yourself, what you're habitually moving within yourself, how your vibration is changing. So you don't really become aware of yourself, but you become aware of what's going on within yourself. And that's important because you are the one who's in control. You are the master, in theory, of whatever you are creating within yourself, whatever vibration you're putting out, you are the master. And so it's only when you stop creating thoughts and feelings and imagination and perceptions and so on, when there is silence, that you might become absolutely aware that you are yourself. You are just being. Or, in the words of many a spiritual path, the moment of I am, the I amness of a moment where you are just being yourself. And then you don't really need to be aware of yourself. It's a paradox, really. We tend to focus on our faults and weaknesses up until that point. And we all have this habit of focusing on what we're not good at doing, or we're not capable of doing, or we haven't learned yet to do. And this is programmed into us by society, by the media, by our parents, by school, is to focus on the negative side of what's going on or what's not happening inside. So we have the tendency, we're all different, we all have a different extent of that tendency, but we all have this tendency to talk about the things that are going wrong. Whereas if we talked solely about and consider solely about what's right and what's good, we probably wouldn't talk very much. Silence would be the language of the day. And that's why we go and see movies with a lot of talking about the negative things that are taking place, the violent things that are taking place. Because we won't go and see a movie if it was just about positive ideas and positive images and everything's going well and I'm so happy and it's so good, isn't this lovely? And so that would be, for most people, that would be pretty boring because there's no drama, because there's no emotion. Emotion makes up the drama that takes place in life. And so we've come to be addicted to becoming emotional. And so therefore we are addicted to a drama taking place around us. And if it's not happening, then we'll create it. And so we have an excuse to be emotional about something. And it gets a bit complicated, as you can imagine. So the third aspect of this particular definition is that being judged and facing rejection, and that's what's going on all the time. I'm sure somebody's judging me, or they're judging me, or I better not do that, I'll be judged badly, or they might even reject me. It's common, it's quite common in our behaviors now at the end of the cyclical movement of time. And it's living in an unspoken nightmare. We all live like that. We all think like that, but we don't really talk about it. But it's what you might call an unspoken, and it's not a nice aspect to the dream of life. It's a little bit more like a nightmare. It goes unspoken, unless, of course, you're with a very close friend or a very close group of colleagues, and then you kind of speak about it a little bit more because you know that you don't mind being judged. But just the opportunity to express what's going on inside relaxes a little bit when you're with friends, and you can talk about it a little bit more. But generally, it's an unspoken. It's people living in a miserable state, basically, is the essence of the unspoken nightmare. And so the definition, the simplest definition that I can find for authenticity is being real and true. Am I real? Am I true? That's the best way to describe it. In an unreal world, this is not easy to be real. Yeah, it means that I can't hide anything and I can't disguise anything anytime from anyone, anywhere. You know, being real and being true, because it means being totally open. Yeah, it means no hiding of anything whatsoever. Sounds nice in theory, and that's what this is. It's just a presentation of theory, but putting that into practice for many people is a lifetime. It takes a lifetime to be able to be real in a world where we are given so much unreal images, unreal ideas, unreal concepts, and in fact, even our history that we learn is unreal. It's falsified. It's illusory. And so to be real in this world is not so easy. And true, real and true, the truth is that which never changes. That's a nice definition of truth, which I kind of gravitate towards quite a lot, is that which never changes. And it means, what it means really is finding the aspect within you, the aspect of you, that stays the same forever, regardless, that never changes. You know, it's the abiding aspect of you. Down here in this world, everything is subject to change. Everything is vibrating, everything's moving, everything is changing. Whereas there's an aspect at the very core of the self, the core of the being that I am, whether you call it soul or consciousness or psychology, or it doesn't really matter, but the soul of you, not your form, not your body, there's an aspect there that never, ever changes. Yeah. If that aspect wasn't there, you would go crazy. You would go mad. And again, I refer to the I am aspect of your consciousness. So being real and being true is not so easy, but yet it's about the bottom line, and that is the bottom line of authenticity. That's the basics of it. So when authenticity is expressed as a value, what you're doing is you're endeavoring to be it, to be authentic. That's all you can do, is endeavor to be it. And it may show up occasionally in your behavior. And that's what the spiritual journey is getting it to show up even more and more and more. Be more and more authentic than you were yesterday, last week, or last year. That's what any spiritual path is really concerned with. Because right now, most of us have learned to be inauthentic, false in some way or other, you know. And when it's a virtue in society, it's not so much seen by the self, but it's seen and sensed by others. Yeah, and that's the difference between virtues and values. Virtues are something you try and put into practice yourself, try and behave in that way, but it's only others that would call you virtuous. You wouldn't say, "Oh, I was just I'm being so virtuous." I mean, that's called virtue signaling, and that really isn't virtue, because you're saying I was virtuous and myself was very virtuous in this situation, wasn't I? And that's called the ego. Yeah, that's called identifying with the virtuousness of that behavior. It might be seen or might be sensed by others. But if you look for it, then once again, that is the ego looking to be confirmed or affirmed as being a virtuous person. And I've just said, well, it may not be virtuous at all, as others watch you. And so you can't put it on, you can't fake it until you make it so much. So this is what people see and feel when you are enacting the value of authenticity. You know, you might be trying to put it into practice, and this is the kind of thing they would see. It would build a trust towards you, because they would see your commitment to a situation, your sincerity in talking about the subject. You would be reliable over time, and therefore there would be consistency. You would bring a competency to the situation, to the interaction. But most of all, they would sense a level of integrity in you, which would in itself attract their attention, and they would be very trusting of you. And so these aspects, these if you like, in many ways there'd be very different values, which I'm sure you've covered in this particular series. They would be a combination, and some people would have some strongly and some weakly, and some right on the money, and some not so accurate. And so they would engender a level of trust towards you, towards them, towards the person that they see that in, and it would vary according to the moment and to how well they express these other qualities. Yeah. And so that's what they would see. You can't, you're not allowed to see that. You're not allowed to notice it, except to express it. You would express those qualities. Yeah. And then there would be the return. The person would be more trusting of you. And so you would build trust in that relationship. Trust being the first thing to go and the last thing to come back. And so you would win it back by your authenticity in one of these areas. Unauthentic behaviors, in other words, not the real you, not the true you. And so there's various behaviors which you would express. Oh, there's one, yeah, which would be trying to control and manipulate others, which is inauthentic, or you being an inauthentic person, because there's one thing you cannot control, is another human being. But you may not have got rid of that belief totally in your subconscious, and that is a belief by which the world runs at the moment. And so you may not have cast it out completely. And so occasionally you may manipulate a situation to get someone to do what I want. And when they don't do it, then you get angry, because all anger is simply not getting what I want. And so dishonest communication, telling somebody one thing and meaning something else. And so it would be dishonest, basically. It wouldn't be clear. It wouldn't be open. Criticizing others is an attack. Criticism is an attack, but we tend to justify, well, I was just trying to be creative. But really, you were attacking the other person. Was it necessary? Was it good? Was it bad? It's up to you, basically. You're always trying to impress others. Yeah, you're putting on a face or an act or a set of behaviors which you know will impress, so to get the impression. Putting yourself down, which we often do. I'm no good, I'm bad, I'm negative all the time, and so I put myself down. That's inauthenticity. It's not being true to myself. We compromise our integrity for personal gain. In other words, we'll say one thing to get others to do something for us. Yeah, we tell them a story which is not true, but we know that they will do a certain thing for us if we tell the story well. Yeah. Someone who speaks what they think and others want to hear. In other words, we tell others what we think they want to hear from us. Yeah, and so we've compromised our own nature in speaking and connecting and relating to the person. And so we do that, and that's inauthentic. We're not being our true selves because we fear that they might not do what we want. We're pretending to be someone we're not. Well, that's pretty common, isn't it? And that's what we do hundreds of times every day, but don't realize we're doing it most of the time, probably. And so that's why there is such a thing as spirituality, to correct that pretense, basically, and to be ourselves. So we tend to adhere to social norms. In other words, the culture that we're brought up in, what's normal and what's abnormal, and what's not normal is usually normal. It's better, it's more authentic, it's more real. But of course, society has gone against that, and so they act in other ways, and that's a huge issue today with the subject of free speech and free interaction with other people. That's a seminar on its own, basically. Someone who lets others dictate their actions. If you allow people to have power over you and allow them to say one thing, and then you will automatically do what they say, that's inauthentic. It's not being your true self, which is someone who's capable of doing just for themselves, from their inner impulse and ambition, etc. Not being open to learning, in other words, closing ourselves off to the opportunity that we might be learning something. And that's the ego again saying, I know, I'm aware, I don't need to learn anything. Someone who will not admit their mistakes. We all know someone who's a bit like that. Maybe I'm a bit like that. Maybe there's sometimes I won't admit because it's too much. And that's the ego at work again. Others' expectations dictate our choices because we want to meet their expectations and we're afraid that we're not going to. And then finally, we always seek recognition from other people, our society, or from an organization, etc. Seeking recognition is inauthentic in itself. So these are just some of the things that we do, common actions every day, which are signs of inauthentic. I'll leave you, if you're able to grab the screen, I'll leave you to go through them all and work out what is authentic. It's the opposite of those, basically. And so that's how I should be. There's that word should. That's how it's possible to behave in certain situations. So the cause of all unauthentic behavior is what I've been saying is common to all those situations, is to do with the ego. Yes, Manoj, you're entering into the den. Is something you want to say?
No. I don't know why this has happened. It is asking me allow access. I allowed it. So I don't know why I am there in this.
Okay. So you're there. Welcome. You stay there, I think, or else I can.
No, I'm trying to do that, but well, you can continue speaking. Sorry.
No problem. It's all right. So the cause of all unauthentic behavior is what I've been talking about in the last slide a lot, is that these behaviors that are ego-driven. And so we learn to identify with what is not me. That's what we're taught as children, and as society is taught by parents, teachers, colleagues, and then by society at large, by the media. So we create many illusory senses of identity. We don't even know we're doing it after a while. And these become the many faces of our ego, whether it's our profession or our country or our organization, or it's our beliefs, it's our perceptions, I'm right or you're wrong. There's many faces that we identify with just in a moment, for maybe a few minutes or maybe a few years. It doesn't really matter. But the spiritual journey, as you know, is collapsing those illusory identities and restoring our authenticity of ourself, our true self. So mostly they are subconscious. These faces are subconsciously held. In other words, outside of our moment-to-moment, day-to-day awareness. Very few are consciously aware. Except, of course, when you step on the spiritual path, you become more and more aware, more and more conscious of the reasons that you're creating an identity based on a different face, a changing face. But in time, with effort, with spiritual input, you can raise what's in your subconscious to become consciously aware. But it's difficult to be real. It's difficult to be true. It's difficult to be authentic. And many people struggle quite a lot. And if we can get the last line up, And one of the reasons is the ego is the source of emotion. If you've noticed this, then you're kind of halfway there, because emotion is quite addictive. And so it's necessary to give up being emotional to be free ultimately of the ego. Otherwise, the ego is a very easy way to create emotion. And mostly that emotion is fearful. It's the emotion of fear of future loss. Fear is always of a future loss. And so it's this that stops us from being authentic in every situation. Yeah, some situations are easy, some relationships are easy, but most are more challenging. And that's the spiritual journey. So 10 questions, final slide, 10 questions to build your authenticity, if you want to, you don't have to, and 10 questions which also raise your self-awareness, which is necessary if I'm going to make changes to my own consciousness, my own vibration. How can I be more introspective? In other words, ask yourself, how can I be more introspective? How can I spend more time on my own, on the inside, getting to know me? What motivates me? What turns me on? What gets me out of bed in the morning? What's my passion? What's my purpose? Is it physical or is it more deeply spiritual? Only you know the answer to that. What are my core values? Always a good question to ask yourself. What do I really care about most? What's important to me? And you'll come down to a core of 2, 3, 4 values which you really care about and which you will then find ways to put into behavior, put into practice, basically. What changes can I make based on my values? And so a good question to ask yourself, what beliefs did I assimilate as a child, which are still have a hold in my subconsciousness, my subconscious? And so what beliefs did I assimilate from other people, from parents, from society, that I still express? And so what has to go, basically? Question number 6, what are my internal expectations? Expectations not of anyone else. I've got to be free of expectations of others, but what do I expect of myself? Not to put pressure on myself, but how do I expect to be in 1 year, 10 years from now? And so it's good to have a little think about that and then not think about that. Let it happen if it's going to happen. What is my passion? What's my purpose in life? Why am I here? Always a good question to really explore within my own consciousness. What do I really care about most? What am I passionate about? Anything in this world or something beyond this world? Up to you. Describe your feeling of strong self-esteem. Build a picture of you having high self-esteem. And as you build a picture, you notice you're putting together your vision of yourself. And the vision tomorrow is much stronger than it is today. And so if you watch carefully, you'll notice, if you keep building that vision, that it becomes reality in the future, in the near future. It's easy to make it a reality because you've created it out of your thoughts and your feelings within your consciousness. How can I reduce my judgment of others? It's a habit we all have to judge others. And so is it possible to diminish that habit, to be free of that habit? And then finally, in what areas of my life do I require a little bit more courage to keep going, to keep facing, to keep engaging, basically? And so identify those areas and you'll find the courage arises when you're more accepting of those situations and those people in your life. So that's it. Really, I'm going to shut up now and see if you have any questions. You should have a question or 5. And thank you for zooming in. And there's my email if you have any questions beyond today. And so that's yeah, that's 50 minutes. Okay, Manoj, you're right. 50 minutes. I was wrong. And that's fine.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I was just busy taking my notes of unauthentic behaviors and 10 questions. Okay, wonderful. It's mind-boggling to really go on to each of these behaviors because we all have something or the other which really is unauthentic, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, quick questions. I think you've covered them, but since it's a new audience we have, do you want to tell us the difference between virtue, value, and a quality, which you've already covered, but I want you to explain more.
Well, a value is something you care about. You know, it's different from belief. It's something you think is true but don't know it's true. That's what a belief is. Whereas a value is something you care about, that you think is important for you, and that you would like to invest in your life, basically. And a value is something that you would consciously identify, whereas a virtue is something that other people will see when they watch you. You know, they watch your behavior or they listen to your words and your gestures, and they would then say, well, that was a very virtuous thing. They might not say it, they might just think it, if they have that word in their lexicon, in their language. And a quality is, now it's getting complicated. I, I, I don't like the word qualities, you know, because then we try and make plural what is really singular. A quality is something that someone expresses in terms of virtue. There's a virtue that's taken place. And so you could call that a quality. That's the quality of their being. Yeah.
Maybe can we say that someone who's expressing the virtue or value in their behavior, that's a quality he or she has? Uh,
I would put it more in the camp of the virtue, but whatever you say is okay. It's right. It's okay. It's up to individuals to work out which language they want to use, which way they want to describe it. But a virtue is a gesture towards someone which is of a giving nature, whereas a quality might be within you and it's not expressing as a giving aspect. And so you're not giving a quality, you're just being it. And so you wouldn't see it, you wouldn't know it. Whereas virtue, that person was very virtuous in that situation. And so in other words, they were giving. That might be one way to separate the two, basically. But eventually, they all roll in together. They all roll in as one.
Right. Another favorite question, a favorite topic of yours is belief systems. And the
Yeah.
question goes there. How do we change our very rigid belief systems about many things in life? How do we change the belief systems? And what are belief systems basically?
Beliefs are ideas which are said are correct, are true. It's what you think is true. A belief is a thought. A thought is a belief. You know, you think about your beliefs and you believe. I might say I have an argument with you and say I believe this, and I might not notice till afterwards that it was just a belief I shared. You know, a belief is not the truth. The belief is lying to myself. It's trying to make something static, something still. I'm trying to hold on to it. This is why people feel it's necessary to have beliefs. Oh, must have an opinion, which means you must have a belief about that. You don't have an opinion, you don't have a belief. Therefore, you are weak. You are easily manipulated, and so on. Whereas someone who has realized the truth of a situation will not say anything. They don't need to. They don't need to prove anything to anyone. They don't need to make the other believe the same thing that they do. You know, they might say it once, but without emotion. Whereas belief, when they're expressed, they're usually expressed with some kind of emotion. They're trying to convince the other. They're trying to make the other see their side of the story. Yeah. Whereas with the truth, it is what it is. And everything is what it is. There's no need to say anything. There's no need to speak about it. There's no need to express it. And so if we lived by the truth, we would say very little, as we will do in the future, I think, except certainly some of us will. We will say very little. And the last thing we'll be doing is trying to express our truths in lectures, in talks, in interaction with others. And so they're quite different, belief and truth. But of course, today, you know, after a while, most people live by their beliefs or belief system, their system of beliefs. And you need them to get on very practically with the world around you. You could say you need them, but with the world within, they're not so necessary. What's more necessary is clarity. Yes, to see clearly. And when you see clearly, you see the truth of the situation, the truth that's existing already. It's already pre-existing. For example, the truth of myself, that my nature is peaceful and loving. That's nearly there. It's very close. It's not exactly there. It's there in words. It's there as I express the words that shape the peace and the love. But in reality, the vibration is not there. It's only when I'm vibrating peacefully and I'm vibrating the quality, as you would say, of love, then I would know the truth. I would know the truth. The truth would not be a theory anymore. But if I speak about it, no, I believe I am love. I believe I am truth. I believe I'm peaceful. Then it's just a belief. I'm not living it. I'm not being it. And so there's another way of looking at the difference between the two. The truth is very flexible, very dynamic, very open. And only I know when I'm being in my truth.
Okay, wonderful. So, another interesting question is being authentic is being yourself. So, we
Yeah,
sometimes copy others and follow their stories and ideas. So,
yeah.
how can we be authentic then in that when we are copying?
Well, the key is don't copy. Stop it. It's not possible to copy exactly anyway. You're copying what you think you see, and that's come through your consciousness, through your perception, and it's your interpretation of what you've seen. And your interpretation will be colored by your past beliefs that you've learned. And so then it starts to get quite complicated. It says it's not really worth going down that road in one sense, but just getting focused on what is true for me, what is true within me, what's the true vibration that I'm emitting at any given moment. And you will know that it's true, that it's real, in that moment by the vibration itself. You won't need to say anything. You just know that that's as real as I can be. And so you it's misleading to try and copy somebody. To take a quality that they have, like say someone's very forgiving, and say they do it frequently and you see them frequently, don't copy them, but take the quality that you call forgiveness and ask yourself, what does that mean to me? How can I be that more in my relationships? How can I integrate that into my persona right now? How can I be more forgiving? And so I'm not copying, I'm taking from, and then I'm integrating it. Integrity is integral to myself, to my own personality. And so therefore, I'm not behoved to anyone. I don't bow down in front of anybody.
Okay, so there's another question, which again, it's a good favorite. I think every topic what you have spoken about is your favorite because you said you can have another talk on that. So someone's asking again, can you please ask Mike to please speak a little bit more about the relationship between ego and emotions?
Yeah. The ego is based on attachment to an idea, to an image. An object it sits out there, but it also comes into your consciousness as an image. And you lose yourself in that image. You attach to it. You become locked onto that image so that when you talk about it, you've got that image in the background and you're locked onto it. And if someone says someone opposite, or someone says that's a terrible idea that you're attached to in the background, then you become emotional, you become defensive. Maybe the emotion is just a little vibrational change in your consciousness, and you start getting a little bit upset, a little bit frustrated. They don't agree with me, but I'm right and they're wrong, and so on. And so there's an emotion in that expression. There's an emotion in that communication. And so the ego, based on attachment, and where there is emotion, there's always an attachment to something. Emotion arises out of attachment. It's not easy to see, But if you play with that idea, you might see it in yourself, see it for yourself. So it basically means that just about every word we speak is is shaped by the ego. Every word that I've spoken. Yeah, it's not, ego is not a bad thing. I mean, it's not necessarily useful to have a very strong ego. And in fact, the spiritual journey is about lessening and lessening and lessening the strength of your ego, and allowing your humility, your humbleness to come to the surface. But between here and there, yeah, between black and white, there's many shades of gray. In other words, there's many aspects of the ego which will come out. And one of our deepest attachments is to our beliefs, like I'm expressing my beliefs right now. Now, it's not possible for me to be free of emotion, energy, and motion. I'm being a little bit emotional, but not much, just a little bit. It's okay, not bad. It's never that bad. And so it comes out in our language, in how we talk. And so it just means I'm attached to the belief. And so I express the belief in words. There's a little bit of emotion comes through that, and that's okay. And then it arrives in your ear, basically. Yeah. And so there's attachment, which is the basis of the ego. Yeah. And then there's the expression of what I'm attached to, and that means there's going to be some emotion, energy and motion. Yeah. Whereas if I was real, if I was authentic, I wouldn't need to. I wouldn't say anything probably. I'd just be quiet. I'd be silent. I'd be still. Yeah. There would be no emotion. I'd be feeling very warm and very loving towards you. I'd feel that, and I would go, I probably wouldn't even think I'm feeling that. I just would be feeling that. That feeling would be natural, au naturel. And then I'd be quite still, quite authentic, quite myself. Everything is as it is, if you know what I mean.
Wonderful. Really, it's wonderful explanation of ego and attachment. Fantastic. So there's another question that nowadays in this world where we are living, everyone is so unauthentic, not really genuine. How do we know about people's true motive or true intention about whatever they are doing? How can we keep ourselves safe?
You don't. You can't. It's necessary to realize what you are, the spiritual being. Then nothing is dangerous for you when you've realized what you are. No words, no actions, no behavior coming from outside is a threat to what you are. Yeah, it's a threat to your body, could hurt your body. There could be pain, physical pain, but there will be no emotional pain, and no, in theory, no emotional pain, no mental pain, basically. If there's mental and emotional pain, it means I still have work to do on my consciousness. I still have to purify something. I'm still holding on to something. I'm still fearful of the future. Fear is always future-based. Fear of losing something in the future. So I might be fearful of losing my comfort in this chair because someone's come in and said, that's my chair, I sit there. I might just be a little bit fearful for a minute as oh no, hold on, wait a minute. I'm sitting here, I'm here. I'm okay, it's fine, it's okay. Yeah. And so it's difficult. It's not easy. Not easy. I'm describing the spiritual journey, basically, the spiritual journey home, which is to be free. Yeah, to be free of the ego, to be free of attachment, basically. And that's only possible by understanding exactly when and why and where I become attached. Yeah, and I begin to see what I've brought with me, the attachments I've got deeply ingrained, the beliefs deeply ingrained in my consciousness, which come to the surface, which might takes a little time for the spiritual journey to take place, because those beliefs will come up in a more subtle form, a more subtle way. And so there's a something called check and change. There's a mantra called check and change. So I check myself. Why was I so argumentative? Why did I react to that situation? Why am I attached to that? And so there's got to be times when I'm introspective, when I ask myself those questions, and I see, I've always held on to that. And that's because, someone taught me to believe that that was of value. But it's not really, because it's physical and it's not part of me. And so why am I holding on to that? For support, for security, probably. And that's what happens with religion, is people hold on to their beliefs about the religious story for their sense of security, their sense of value. So in a sense, they're attached to it. Their ego is based on it. So it's a roundabout journey. It's a never-ending conversation.
Right. So the question was basically, related to this very simple and practical question that someone's asking. I get very often cheated by the rickshaw drivers in India.
Yeah.
And I know it's authentic. So how do I deal with this situation? Because it's very common for us in India to have these rickshaw drivers cheating upon you.
Well, I mean, the best way is to know that you've been cheated once. You've learned the lesson. I'll not be cheated again. So before you ask for a rickshaw to go somewhere, you kind of generally know the price of what you should be charging. And so then you agree in the price before you go on the journey. You know your destination. So there's here and there. And you say to them, well, it's going to cost this much. This is what normally costs. And so you've got to do that. You've got to do that work, very practical work in the world. And then as the journey's going, you feel at ease, you're at peace, because you've done the practical things to start with. You're not imagining, oh my God, he's going to charge me 5 times too much, or you're not imagining it, or he's going to take me in a roundabout sort of way. I know the route, I know how much it costs before I ask. So let me just make that agreement with him first of all before we set off. It's easy, really.
Yes. Okay. This is an interesting question related to the BK Brahma Kumaris terminology. I'm sure many of the participants here understand this terminology, so I'll just take it. That where are we the most authentic? Are we authentic in the soul world or the deity world?
It's a good question. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're authentic in more easily in theory in the soul world, because you don't have a body, you're not interacting, you're not experiencing, you're not the senses. There's no sensual input to hold on to, and there's no images. You're beyond. You're beyond all of that, and so in a sense, you are authentic. Yeah, you're real. You can't be anything else but real and truly yourself. But you don't know it because you don't have self-awareness, basically. Whereas in the deity world, you are as close to authentic as you can be, if not there altogether to begin with. Yeah, the ones who are there to begin with, to start the ball rolling, if that's the right way to say it, will be truly authentic. They've come with that purity, and this is what we would call authenticity in BK language. There is that purity of consciousness. Yeah, and that's why we say that the consciousness of that time, that it is like a Buddha. It's like naive, totally stupid. Hardly says anything. It doesn't say anything that we would call deep now. They don't need to. They don't. Their vibration is of such a state that they feel great. They feel as if they're in their best mood, but they're not thinking that, oh, this is a good mood. They just are in that state. And so you could say that they are their most authentic. They don't want anything from anyone. They don't want to cheat anyone, etc. They don't find a reason to be anything other than themselves in that moment, based on external circumstances. There's no judgment. Yeah, I could go on and describe that place. And so the ones who are coming at the very beginning, they would be the most authentic, if not totally authentic. But as time goes on, as souls are coming down, and as they're learning from others quite fast, as they're influenced by others quite fast, they lose their authenticity quite fast. That's okay. It's not bad to be 99% authentic, 98% authentic, 99% authentic, and authentic being the original, pure, gorgeous, perfect consciousness. You know, that's would be probably to be real and to be true to yourself. And so the authenticity would then, over time, due to various influences, become less and less and less.
So, in the interest of time, I'll just take two more questions. This question, I'll just try to summarize that she's working on a project, and while working in the project, she's found out that someone is not authentic. So, she's saying, should I tell that person? How do I strike a balance? Should I support my own value of authenticity or care for that person and make sure that he doesn't get hurt if I say something?
Well, that's a very good question, actually. Very practical question, because it's something we encounter all the time, is projecting our judgment about others onto others. Yeah. So first of all, check yourself. Are you seeing what's already within you? Are you picking up because you're like you can identify with what they're saying or doing that's making them inauthentic? Can you identify with it within yourself? Are you picking it up because of that? So first of all, I have to check, and then the secret is to say nothing. Don't tell them what you see. It's not necessary. It's just be good to be in their company. Just be a good person, the best that you can be. In other words, don't try and control them. Don't try and reduce or enhance their authenticity, but be a good influence. Yeah. And in other words, in your interactions with them, you be as authentic as you can be in those interactions. But don't talk to them personally about what you see in them. Otherwise, they might react, they might resist, they might close up. It doesn't really matter. They might it might be worse than what you've seen. They might become worse because of that resistance. And so there's no need to say what you see. It just encourages the growth of what you see in the other person, or it can do. Not always, but it can do. So just not necessary to say anything. Just be how you would like them to be. In other words, but don't think, oh my God, I've got to act like that. You know, just be yourself, but be as authentic as you can be. And that will naturally influence them over time.
Thank you. Simple question. Why do genuine people suffer so much?
Well, if the genuine person is suffering, it means they're not genuine. That's the simple answer to the simple question. You know, if you genuinely yourself, then nothing will bother you. Other people will not bother you, and so it's okay if you meet someone who's not genuine. You know, it's okay, no problem. If you are genuine in yourself, you know, you stand in that power, you stand in that you take support from that power within you. You are sovereign to yourself. And that's the main thing. That's what we're all doing. And as we're doing, we're pulling ourselves up. And as we pull ourselves up, we pull all those around us up with us. You know, and that's the aim, really. Not to try and fix the other, not to judge the other, not to make the other the way we would like them to be, in order to feel good about ourselves. That's a big mistake, and that's a huge mistake in the world today. That's why everyone's interfering with everyone else. It's called an interference pattern, and that's why things are so chaotic out there, because everyone's interfering with everyone else instead of getting their own act together and looking within to see what they need to do to get their strength, their power, their own support system, to get that together in themselves.
And the last question, in the interest of time, since you have spent a lot of time with Daddy Janki, people are asking that, can you share Daddy's authenticity, examples of authenticity which she demonstrated in action? Just one.
Well, she was always ready to call out to people which made her kind of authentic, but sometimes it wasn't appropriate. And so she was, she had flaws as well as she had a good side. So she would tell people, some people, she could do it because she came from a powerful place, an aware space within her own consciousness. She would tell people where they were coming. Some souls ask Bap Dada, what's my future? Am I going to come in the golden age? And he says, yes, you'll come in the golden age, and they're very happy at that. Just to know they're coming at a certain time in the future, they're coming down into physical form. And so she could do this too. She could sense, she was aware of where you were at. And so she would say to you what you need to do, what effort you need to make to enhance your consciousness. It's not something we can do very easily. And that's why I've said in the past couple of answers that it's best to say nothing, but to be it yourself. And she was already it. She was already there. She was already authentic. So she could talk about it. And we could recognize her authenticity, and we could accept what she said. Yeah. But it's different with us. We're not that. We're effort makers, if you like. We're on our way. We're on our spiritual journey. And so there are still some flaws which we need to work out, whether it's, you call it the ego or attachment, doesn't matter. And so, we easily project those onto other people. We want them to be perfect, which really means we want ourselves to be perfect. But she was already there. And so she could tell you, and you could accept it. Whereas we say anything to other people, why should they accept it when they know that you're a bit weird and a bit unauthentic yourself in certain areas? And so they're more liable to come back and argue with you and fight you and resist you, etc. Whereas with her, on the button. She was that powerful. She was in her space. Her sovereignty was intact.
Wonderful. So, in short, to summarize, authenticity gives you the power to project, and also it gives you the power to influence people in the right way if you're really genuinely authentic. Genuinely authentic. Just mix the two words. Sorry. Okay. Okay. So, thank you so much, and I'll just request Sister Anu now to propose the vote of thanks. So, over to you, Sister Anu. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Manoj, and thank you, Brother Mike. Very deep reflections. I loved many things. Every word you spoke is something we all have to take home to reflect, to become authentic, because that's our original nature quality. We would love it when we become that. I'm sure each of us, every human being, is pulled towards becoming authentic. But as you said, there's some fear, fear of whatever loss, future loss, that makes us inauthentic, the want of getting something. I loved it. You said that when I'm seeing someone being not authentic, I'm judging already. I'm bringing myself down already, my consciousness. So I'm inauthentic at that moment as well. It's not taking me anywhere. So on the other side as well, you said that compromising myself, putting myself down, is being not authentic with myself. That is such a beautiful thing, the balance. But most important is me knowing myself and staying there, being that. My effort has to be that, not to say somebody, not to project, oh, I'm authentic and you are doing not authentic thing. I think very deep churning and understanding has come upon, and each of us definitely appreciate it from the heart, and we will practice more and more by listening to it, by writing it down and making it truly an effect of our life. Thank you from each of us very much.
Thank you.
I think also I'll quickly announce the upcoming program, and later, Brother Mike, would you do a meditation commentary, or we can play some song and we can meditate as you would like.
Oh, sure, no problem. Yeah.
Let me just
So let's finish. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the announcement. Sometimes this ends today. So the coming will be our workshop on authenticity, genuinity, coming Saturday, 28th of December evening, 8 p.m. for India time. That's 6:30 a.m. for West Coast time, and Europe is in the afternoon. So please mark your calendar and join us so that we can continue and we can check ourselves how far we have progressed in understanding and seeing authenticity in ourselves. And for that, we'll have first hour of experiential exercises, and second hour we'll have Sister Deepa, who is the Senior Raj Yoga teacher from India. So she will take us to an insightful further talk and meditation. And the next session on Values for Life series is episode 106 on being unlimited. And in Hindi it is Behetta. And it is on 4th of January, New Year, new start, same time as today. It's 8:30 India time, by the way. And we'll have a conversation between Brother Eric, Sister Jana, as well as Sister Bhumi. The flyer will be shared with you soon. I couldn't put it here right now. So Brother Eric is National Coordinator of Brahma Kumaris in Canada, and Sister Dr. Jana is from Brahma Kumaris, Washington, D.C., USA, and Sister Bhumi from New York, USA. So join us then for this beautiful value if we become unlimited. And get more information from our website. That's vihasa.in and vancouver.brahmakumaris.ca. All the videos, including today's, you will find on our YouTube channel as well as on our playlists. As you can see, the Values for Life Talk Series playlist and the Work playlist. And these are our emails if you want to write something to us. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'll hand it over.
Okay, so we finished with a few moments of quietness. And as you know, I tend to keep the meditation commentary very simple. And one of the things I encourage people to do is to look away from the screen so that you don't incur the sanskar of judging, of watching, observing someone else, so you're not being fully present within yourself. So look away and see if you can rest your eyes somewhere on a point, somewhere in the room. And then the idea is to take your consciousness and the vibration of your consciousness to bring it to a very sort of still and peaceful place within yourself, so that you're just restoring your awareness of what you really are. So just relax your body in the chair. Allow your awareness to move up through your body. And if you find any tension or tightness, just let it go. And then come to your face, your head, your forehead. And just take a moment to become aware of yourself. Aware of the awareness that you are in yourself. Just letting any thoughts, any sensations come and go. And bring your awareness to your mind. Mind is not the self. Your mind is what moves and from where your thoughts emerge. Your thoughts as vibrations. So let them emerge, let them go. And then just create one thought, simple thought, very slowly. I am a being of peace. Allow yourself to float in that energy, to feel and to know that peace is what you are. Let the mind be quiet. Let the heart of your being be still. Silent and still. And then let your awareness return to the room around you, the here and now. But let that stillness, that quietness, shine through your eyes. Divine the vibration of your voice. Let it dictate how you feel in this moment. And know it is what you are in every moment. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much for this wonderful session. We missed one thing. We take a photo, the virtual photo, so that we can remember this moment, make it memorial. So I would take a moment and take a picture. Everybody, you can open your video if you like to win the photo with Brother Mike. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brother Mike.
Thank you.
And see you all soon again.